Welcome all to High Strangeness in Alaska. I love doing this series about the paranormal. Of course, the Alaska Bigfoot studies is a passion of mine too. So I apologize to all the diehard Bigfoot fans, but we're going in the direction of the Dogman again today. You never know what we're going to get, UFOs or paranormal. I do a percentage of those. Primarily, I like to study Bigfoot, but we do like to diversify a little bit out here. Shout out to Jomo and all my patrons. Jomo is always gathering his kids up every Sunday morning for their dose of Chuke paranormal Bigfoot goodness. So I aim to deliver today, and I am going to talk about the Dogman. Now, the Dogman is particularly in. Now, the Dogman is particularly interesting. It's hard to say that word because I believe it's related to your traditional werewolf, some of the shapeshifters we're talking about, but it's also very different. I believe the core Dogman stories come from Michigan, and I'm not going to deny that some of it is urban legend. When the 70s radio guy, Dogman or whatever, started talking about it. However, there's been tons of sightings. A lot of people believe in the Dogman, and it seems to be a little different than some of the things that we see around here, but I also think some of them are related. So the Dogman supposedly showed up around 1887 when some lumberjacks saw a human-like animal with a dog head. It had a man's body or a dog or wolf head, and when it howled, it did this human-like scream. Now, a lot of the sightings we get in the lower 48 Dogman are all very similar. It's like a 7 foot tall, very muscular human torso, furry, man-like creature, but with the head of a dog or a wolf, really long fangs, like 6-inch fangs, sometimes black ears like some wolves have, and just really interesting, big, long, 6-inch claws at times. And it is very menacing. You never hear, at least I haven't read about any Dogman stories that were positive. Oh, we saw a happy Dogman. Usually the stories say, well, this thing looked like it wanted to rip our hearts out. It looked like it hated us. It was not happy. And a lot of times you'll see it stories where it's very athletic, bounding, jumping 10, 20 feet, going across the highway and just scuttling away. Another interesting thing is the sightings say it has very blue or amber glowing eyes, sometimes red glowing eyes, and people will see it in the darkness with just these amber glowing eyes staring at them, growling, salivating, big fangs sticking out as it comes into the partial light. So, what do I think about these? Well, I think there's different categories of these wolf man like creatures. We do have the shapeshifters, and those are the shamanic shapeshifters that are predominantly here in Alaska. That they're the individuals that can turn into wolves, typically is the most common one, but they can also turn into birds, sea creatures, various things like that. And sometimes in traditional form, in artwork, especially the Inuit artwork and Yupiak artwork, Yupik artwork, sometimes we see it up here where they will sometimes show the shamans in half animal, half man form, and of course very typical of wolf. So there's the shamanic shape-shifting wolf. There's the traditional European werewolf that I believe is mostly legend, but some of that does come from this core of shape-shifting shamans that can turn into wolves. But I do think there is an element of that European classic werewolf stake in the heart, silver bullet. Speaking of, I do have my silver bullets loaded now. So we have the silver filled hollow point with a pointed silver tip, pure sterling silver, or fine silver, I should say, pure fine silver, which is 0.999 percentage of silver. It has to be that or above. And it is filled, the cavity of this hollow point. And so I have 4 of them. I hope to get more. So I'm going to have these in my Smith & Wesson 686 for protection on paranormal investigations, and I do believe sort of in the spiritual power of silver. I think it does have some protective qualities. Even on a molecular level, it's pretty interesting, some of the healing it can do. So sort of an evil wolf creature, I do think that silver bullets, believe it or not, would be effective. So I am waiting, and pretty soon I'm going to test one of these. I'm only going to test one, and I'm building this box that will capture it because I do not want to have to do this test over. These were very expensive to have made, and I don't want to have to shoot 2 or 3 of them and use up all my silver bullets. So we are going to test this and see what it does. I'm hoping that it doesn't heat up and splatter silver particles all over the inside of my barrel, which I don't think it will in that short. But anyways, I'll have an upcoming video with that. I did do a whole video on protecting yourself from these dogmen and wolf-like creatures. So let's check in with Rob Roy Menzies and Beans Baxter. I did go to the shop and do another thing of interviews. I met Freaky Deaky podcast and be working with them in some upcoming episodes, but I did pick this little guy up at Rob's shop, which I'm pretty happy with, and I just turned it off for some reason. Anyways, there we go. It's the Alaska Bigfoot alien deal that I got at Rob's shop. So I always like to support Rob. Stop by the Bigfoot Art Gallery in Palmer if you can and pick up something cool like that. Love it for my background. But let's check in with Rob and Beans. So I told the story already, but the one cryptid sighting I personally have had was a dogman-like creature. Have you had people coming in the shop here saying they've seen werewolf, dogman type things?
I want to say yes, but it's been so not often.
Okay, not
it's
frequent.
usually Bigfoot.
Usually Bigfoot.
The one I want to say the one time when somebody did come in here, they weren't quite sure. Mm-hmm. They thought they saw ears. I did tell that the one Batman.
Oh,
I told you that
right.
one. The guy
With
came
the
in here.
whoosh sound.
No.
no,
This is
no.
a guy came in with his wife,
Mm-hmm.
and he started telling me a moose hunting story of him and his buddy.
Yeah.
It was maybe 2 years ago,
Okay.
on the Matsu River. Kind of, he pointed over in that. I guess that direction is the paranormal direction.
Right.
But he said him and his buddy were hunting moose on the Matsu River, and all of a sudden, on the other side of the river, out of the woods, comes this 6 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot tall being with kind of dog legs,
Wow.
covered in fur. But he said the face was like of a bat.
Wow.
And I'm like, what do you mean, a bat?
Yeah.
And he said it had ears, pointed ears,
Right.
like a bat. I'm like, oh, like, and I pointed at my King Kong mask over there because
Right.
of the nose. You know, some
Yeah.
bats have really ugly, hideous noses.
Yeah.
Almost ape-like.
Right.
And was the nose like that? And he says, no, it wasn't that extreme. So anyway, he said this thing walked out. It had dog legs, like the reverse legs. You know, it wasn't
Right.
walking like a Sasquatch would.
Right.
He said it kind of looked around and then saw them and bolted back in the woods.
Wow.
I don't know what to think about that one. I've never heard of that. Although
Yeah.
I did kind of think, I wonder if that's like a dogman kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it had dog legs. But he didn't call it dogman. He called it a bat-looking thing.
Weird.
So, the Matsu Batman.
Right.
That's what I call it. I wish he would come in. If you're out there, if this guy,
Yeah.
he sees this, boy, I'd sure like to talk to you
Yeah.
about it some
Get
more.
more of
Maybe
the
even
story.
draw. I did do a drawing just off the top of my head, but
Nice.
I don't know. I'm probably way off. But
Right.
fun stuff, though.
Very fun.
Yeah.
All right.
So when it comes to Dogman, I'm super skeptical. Now, with Bigfoot, you have a historical precedent with the Native American stories, legends, and depictions in art, totem poles, other things. And with Dogman, you don't really have that. You can point back to the ancient Egyptians and their portrayal of dog-headed people in their hieroglyphics, but for the most part, I think they had dog-headed people, bird-headed people. They had a bunch of different animal-headed people, and I think those were more likely representations of their gods or people wearing ceremonial masks. I don't think those were actually animal hybrid people. Also, with Bigfoot, you have the precedent set by the fossil record. We can go back, we can look at the fossil record, and we can find primates or large apes that had the ability to walk bipedally, at least the option to walk bipedally. And nowhere in the canid fossil record that I'm aware of is there any two-legged bipedal dog or canine type creature. And being a flesh and blood guy, a believer in Bigfoot, that presents a problem for me with Dogman. So I know there's a lot of encounters out there, but I wasn't there. I didn't see it. That's going to be something I'm going to have to see for myself to turn me into a believer. There's a couple of encounters out there that intrigue me and perplex me, notably encounters that were witnessed or had by law enforcement people. Those kind of vex me a little bit because I just wonder what they could have seen. There seems to be a segment of the cryptid community that has basically adopted Dogman as their boogeyman or their bad guy. While Bigfoot can sometimes be portrayed as a forest friend or a gentle giant, Dogman is pretty much 100% depicted as bad or evil. And there seems to be a segment of the cryptid community that claims to be special forces or ex-military, and they hunt Dogman. It's their bad guy. Apparently they can't hunt Bigfoot because he's the gentle giant. So they've marked Dogman as their bad guy, their nemesis, and their mission to destroy the Dogman. And a lot of that, I think, is just at this point, it's cryptid pasta. It's done for likes and subscriptions and monetizations. I don't really think there's any truth to it. If Dogman does exist, which I'm super skeptical of, I think it would have to be some kind of supernatural shape-shifting type entity, probably. Not necessarily a werewolf, but maybe like a lot of cryptid researchers would write about the trickster spirits. They can appear as certain entities, animals, things. I think that would probably be the most likely explanation for the existence of a Dogman type creature. And basically their purpose in life is just to mess with us. Maybe not necessarily physically harm us, but just to cause us fear and confusion. There's a lot of native legends of trickster spirits and things like that. So I think probably, in my opinion, that if Dogman does exist, it's probably something in that vein. Maybe not necessarily that, but something similar. I don't think there is enough physical and historical evidence to point towards a physical Dogman that exists, undiscovered bipedal canine species. But I think there is lots of evidence for undiscovered primate in North America. But, it's one of those things that until I see one or someone that I trust 100% sees one, it's going to be a little sketchy for me. There's no, as of this point, there's no Patterson Gimlin film for Dogman. There's at least two good pieces of Bigfoot media out there, footage, with the PG film, the Freeman footage. And the only thing really with Dogman would be the photo of the Beast of Busco, I believe is how it's pronounced. And that's a photo. It's a still photo. And while it's not super clear, you can look at it and say that looks like some kind of snouted bipedal creature. it's holding something, possibly a rabbit, a dog, some little creature. But at the same time, it could be some form of pareidolia. There's just the one frame, the one picture. There's no follow-up pictures to show that it's not there anymore, or it moves off, or in a different position. So, I'm a little skeptical of that. But I guess as far as Dogman media goes, it's probably the cream of the crop as far as I'm concerned. The rest of the stuff I see is just red circles around dark spots in the woods. So there you have it. I don't know I don't know where to put Dogman. I don't really have an opinion on it other than I'm super skeptical of it, and I'm going to have to see one to be a believer. Much like Bigfoot, although I lean more towards Bigfoot being real and existing than I do Dogman. I've had enough personal experiences with finding tracks and vocalizations and wood knocks that I'm fairly convinced that Bigfoot does exist, although I'm not at the 100% mark yet. With Dogman, I'm probably in the low 20s or teens as far as the existing goes. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Dogman. And we'll just have to wait and see. I kind of like to look at it as, Bigfoot's my focus. That's what I'm focused on. One problem at a time. Once I figure out Bigfoot's real or not real, then I'll move on to something else. But for now, Bigfoot's my main focus. He's my problem I'm working on. And I'm going to have to solve that one before I start worrying too much about anything else.
So there you have it. The legend of the Dogman is primarily in the lower 48. It's pretty fascinating. It's like every 10 years on the 7th year cycle, they have this spattering of sightings, and it's just a fascinating creature. But we've had so many eyewitnesses that I don't think you can discount it. Plenty of hunters and people out and about have seen them. One interesting story was this guy was terrified. He said the thing looked at him like he wanted to kill him, and he shot it through the eye with his 45 ACP. Really interesting story. So if you do a web search, you can find a lot of interesting stories. One of the main reasons I'm so interested in werewolves and dogmen is, although I have seen some interesting footprints and things I believe that I attribute to Bigfoot, so the upside down trees on Prince of Wales Island. The main sighting of a cryptid that I've had up here in Alaska, the only sighting really, was this dog-like man. I've talked about it in several videos. I've got the drawing here. Big old kangaroo ears, big old snout, crouching down like a predator on this rock. I was about 120 yards just looking at it through my rifle scope. Still to this day, sometimes I wish I would have shot it, but I was just mesmerized. I couldn't figure out what it was. I couldn't identify it, so I didn't want to shoot it. It was an animal and not a human, but it was not acting like a bipedal creature. It was crouched over like that, so I didn't think it was bipedal at the time. But now that I think about it, and especially a viewer said that he saw one cross the road. I believe it was in Michigan or Minnesota, one of those states in that area, but he said it looked just like my drawing, but without the tail. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I'm going to have an upcoming episode on artwork too, that me and Rob are talking about, the importance of artwork and Bigfoot investigations and cryptid investigations, because Rob does a lot of illustrations. So shout out to Rob Roy Menzies. I used his artwork in this video. I really appreciate it. Shout out to Beans. Please check out those guys on YouTube and also their Instagram pages. And Beans makes a lot of funny memes on Instagram and TikTok. It's pretty hilarious. So thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys next Sunday.